Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
So I wanted to check in with the PBD podcast to see how they were handling the whole Trump-Epstein thing. They've brought it up multiple times now. They had some kind of argument on there the other day that Majority Report covered, but it turns out they've talked about the actual news of the Epstein Files being covered up more recently than that, and that argument was spurred by something different. So in that argument, Vinnie said something to the effect of, if Trump is guilty, if Bill Clinton is guilty, I want everybody held accountable, blah, blah, blah. So he doesn't really mean that because he loves Trump so much. And but that is the kind of thing that you see people on the left saying, because people on the left are not particularly beholden to Bill Clinton or anybody on the Democratic side that might be implicated by these Epstein files. So that's something that the Democratic Party cares about, specifically the establishment. And people who are not attached to those idols of the Democratic Party could care less to see Bill Clinton taken down. In fact, I would like to see Bill Clinton taken down, especially if it contributes to Trump and others like him being implicated as well. So, I mean, that's the dirty secret that's in front of all of our face, is people like Bill Clinton and Trump and Bill Gates are very much implicated in this Epstein thing. There's probably some kind of evidence on file about them. Whether or not there's videos, I don't know if I believe. Maybe in some isolated cases, there's, some like hotel room that was wired or something. As for whether there's a giant treasure trove of files that, Epstein had that are being used as blackmail, it's possible. They're now saying, the DOJ is now saying that there's no evidence, there's no files, there's no videos. The only video they have is video of the security facility where he was being held when he died or killed himself or whatever happened. They released this security footage that shows that nobody entered the room. However, there's a minute missing from the security footage. I don't know why they would release that. I don't know how much could happen in a minute. I guess a lot, but staging a suicide, I'm not sure if that could happen in a minute. But it's still weird, and it's weird that they would put that out without acknowledging it until after the fact. So just a weird thing here. Seems like this was designed to piss off the MAGA base, although it must have been an attempt to smooth this over. So that's why I was curious to see what this gaggle of Trump supporters over at the PBD podcast are saying about this, because you have everything from the sort of posh businessman pro-Trump perspective from PBD, the kind of grifter that wants to keep grifting, and then you have the everyman populist Trump supporter in this guy Vinnie, who is one of the dumbest people speaking on the public stage today. Genuinely very stupid person, and we're gonna see a little bit of that. Then you have Adam Sosnick, who appears to just be like a douche. I don't really know where you'd put him ideologically, but just a general douchebag. And this other weird economist that they have on the show at some point. So we're gonna hear from all of them. PBD doesn't say much in this clip, but I'll show you a tweet that he had about it. And essentially, these are just varying levels of cope with this information that Trump is not going to do anything to inform people about what happened with Epstein. Now, that was obvious. Anybody who's not a fan of Trump can see clearly not only is he involved, but he has no interest in putting that information out there. Obviously not. That was never even in the question. However, it is something that the MAGA base continually gets worked up about and brings up. And so I guess because of what Elon said, Elon accusing Trump of being in the Epstein files, that spurred Trump to want to put a lid on this and smooth it over and end it and say nothing else is ever coming out about Epstein. That's what they're trying to tell us. The MAGA base is not happy to hear that, but they are spiraling, they are twisting themselves into pretzels to find an explanation for that isn't Trump's complicity. It's such an enormous blind spot that people who claim to take themselves seriously just so willingly ignore this obvious and clear connection between Trump and Epstein. I think in most cases, any of them who actually have half a brain know that Trump and Epstein are connected, and they try not to allow themselves to acknowledge it. But there are many people out there who are just, I think, too dumb to make the connection, or are just really, really resistant to allowing themselves to make that connection. So that's what you have in Vinnie here. Let's listen to what he has to say, and then we'll get into some things about like what this actually reflects about the MAGA base in this moment. And yes, we can acknowledge that, is all this outrage and all that gonna go anywhere necessarily? Probably not. But it might if we frame it the right way and take advantage of this clear and present weakness in the idolatry of Donald Trump. So let's listen to what these guys have to say.
Vinnie, your thoughts on this entire matter here?
There's a guy, I'm pretty sure time you guys are going to know, George Orwell. Was that his name?
Yes.
George Orwell, who said, "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command," which basically means when a totalitarian regime wants full control, it doesn't just lie, it forces you to deny what you see and hear with your own senses, okay? This is one of the biggest, not only slaps in the face, I mean, I knew we were never gonna see anything. Like, the guy suicided himself in jail. We were promised all this stuff. Everybody's lying. Okay, Cash Patel, and we talked about this earlier, Pat. I wanna know, when they came in with all these promises, who is the main guy? Who is the top person? It's not Trump. I hate when people are like, oh, Trump was with girls. No, I don't want to hear none of that shit. Trump was never with little kids. The left would have jumped on his ass earlier. Who is the main blackmailed person that's holding this from coming out? Who is the top? Who's the main person? Okay, because we all know. You saw it from Alina Habba. You saw him from Pam Bondi. He had cameras and they had terabytes of information. That's billions of dollars of evidence on all these people, Pat.
I knew Vinnie was going to be fired up about this. So Jeffrey Epstein, at this point, I'm not even sure what's real and what's a rumor at this point. You know, people like Vinnie, and I mean this sincerely, wake up every day and they're like, where's the Epstein Files? Where are we at? That's not me. This isn't in my top 3 things. But at this point with Epstein, we're not even sure what's real, what's rumor, what's myth, what's mystery. He's part monster. He's part complete mystery. We're not even sure what's happening.
What do you think?
So,
what do you think he is?
Here's what I think. Who are these people? I would suspect are the richest, most powerful people in the world. So here it is. Who do you want to please? Who do you want to upset? You have the elites, and then you have what I would call the angry mob. The elites are whispering, yo, bro, if you talking to this, I'm telling you right now, there's a bit. The mob are yelling, bro, I want to see the blah, blah, blah. You're going to upset somebody. So in my estimation, whether it's Pam Bondi, whether it's Trump himself, whether it's Bongino, whether it's Cash, they're saying the following: we're going to upset somebody here. If this thing comes out, we're going to have the richest, most powerful people in the world who we need, whether it's Bill Gates, whether it's Leon Black, whoever it is, we need them on our team because they know all the dirty secrets out there. We can't upset these guys. At the same time, we're going to upset some angry, loud, mob-type voices who are not going to let this go. So there's these two competing voices. Who do you want to upset? Who do you want to please? Do you want to please the elites or do you want to please the mob? And at this point, they're just siding with the elites.
You know, just Pam Bondi says this in a restaurant, says this to a camera, now says this. Cash Patel says this, and Dan Bongino says this. Cash Patel and Dan Bongino do an interview, and they look like this. I can see all those facts and go, you know, this is fishy. This is terrible. This is horrible. And I'm disgusted. And I'm really disgusted.
So the funniest thing going on here is Vinnie quoting George Orwell without actually knowing who that is. So he doesn't know who that is, doesn't know where this quote comes from or what it means. He quotes it, acknowledges that he doesn't exactly know who this guy is. Then he explains to us what the quote means. And he says that it's when the government has full control, they don't just lie to you, they force you not to believe the evidence of your eyes and ears. I can see why he thinks that that's what the quote means just by reading it without context. And he's close. But he actually misses a very important part of that, which is kind of the whole point of the book, which is, I think 1984 is one of the most easily misinterpretable science fiction novels of all time. And there's a reason that right-wingers have used it to create an authoritarian dystopia and to design one before our very eyes. The very book that was supposed to speak against the concept of propaganda itself has become used as a weapon of propaganda for small government fanatics who want to throw people out on the streets and want as many people to live in poverty as possible. But aside from that, that's a rant for another day. The thing that Vinnie is missing about that quote is that the command is not so much a command, because the people who obey that command are doing it willingly. They're deciding that they want to reject the evidence of their eyes and ears. That's a very crucial piece of that book. And so, yes, there's force involved, but it's not about the government coming to your door and forcing you to believe what they want you to believe. It's the fact that if you're propagandized effectively enough, you will want to believe what the government wants you to believe. And these guys have backwards moonwalked their way into that exact propagandized state, despite the fact that they are some of the loudest voices saying that we cannot allow government to propagandize us and to force us to believe things. Except all it took was an idol that they trust as a vessel of God to be the one who is at the helm of government telling them what to believe, and they'll go along with that. So that's what George Orwell was warning about. And it's funny that Vinnie misses that, because he then goes on to say, who could it be who's at the top of the ladder that is being blackmailed, that has control over this situation and is able to stop this information from coming out? Who is the top dog that's being blackmailed? And then he immediately says, and don't tell me Trump. I don't want to hear Trump. Trump wasn't doing this and that with little kids, because the left would have jumped all over him. So that's it. He says that, and then he moves on from the possibility that Trump is the one who doesn't want this information to get out there. And that is the type of propagandizing that these people have absorbed so much that it is allowing the cognitive dissonance in their mind to reach a shrieking level. Because Adam Sosnick, the Mr. Douchebag over there, he is in a more rational position with it, where he's saying, look, voting for Trump was kind of a deal with the devil. We know this guy's a bit of a sleazebag. I don't know what the fuck he's got going on. I don't know what's rumor and what's not. But I do know that he's offering an approach to government that I want. And so I'm willing to rationalize and explain away the negative things in order to get what I want out of this. Ben Shapiro has essentially said the same thing, although Ben Shapiro's perspective tends to be more critical, but still, it's the same thing. Trump, we support Trump because it's a deal with the devil. We know these bad things about him, and we just don't care. That's a rational perspective. But then you have this other side in Vinnie, where people are so convinced that Trump was the one who was going to solve the problems of government corruption and was going to solve this Epstein conspiracy. There are people out there who think that that's Trump's number one goal and mission. And so those people are so lost that even with this new information, they both recognize the visceral hit of the fact that this is just another repeat of the government covering something up that we're never going to learn the truth about. And they mentioned that a couple times here, that this is just becoming something that is going to be a rumor forever and we're never going to know the truth about. And that's true. And that was always going to be the case. The other interesting thing that Adam says there is that his theory, and I think, again, this is probably the closest to reality other than the fact that he still sidesteps Trump's obvious involvement. But he says that they essentially made a decision that they would rather piss off the unwashed masses that voted for Trump rather than pissing off the elites. And so they decided to side with the elites and not upset them, and not put something out that threatens their status. And again, aside from the fact that Trump is obviously one of the main people implicated in this, I think that's mostly true. But if that is true, then what on earth is the argument for Donald Trump? That is the only argument in favor of him, is that he will not do that, that he will not side with the elites and will not do things that the unwashed MAGA base masses don't want him to do. So if he's faced with the choice, I'm either going to piss off the elites or I'm going to piss off the MAGA base, and he goes with the elites, isn't that the same as admitting that all of you got conned? And I get that maybe a guy like Adam Sosnick or a guy like PBD have, different, more financial motivations for voting for Trump. So they're okay with that. They're okay with the fact that Trump has abandoned populism like we all knew he would, as though he ever actually adopted it as a position in the first place. Because they still, as long as they get tax breaks, which they just did, then that's fine. They get what they wanted out of the deal. So the thing is, though, that a guy like Vinnie is just too stupid and he's too lost in this fantasy to ever actually admit that he was wrong. And I think a big part of it, too, is think of how much shame is associated with that. Taking the position so strongly of supporting Trump, only to be proven wrong in such humiliating fashion. I just think that most people out there, it's less about the fact that they'll never change their mind about Trump, and it's more so that they'll never admit it. And so as long as Trump keeps giving them reasons to get back on board and keeps throwing some kind of red meat out there that they can get on board with, then they're going to keep bouncing back into his court. This has happened before. Anytime Trump was, kind of in the ill favor of the MAGA base, people were mad at him over vaccines because he came out and said vaccines are a good thing and you should get vaccinated. His base was mad at him over that. That was another example of him deciding, well, am I going to piss off my base or am I going to tell them what they want to hear? But eventually they get over it. So that's mostly what's going to happen here. But this is a major dent. And this is going to hurt Trump's credibility with these people going forward. It doesn't hurt his credibility with me because I already knew this. I haven't learned anything I didn't know. Only thing I'm learning with this Trump administration is how fantastically he can fuck up every possible semblance of a mandate that he supposedly had. Everything that people supposedly elected him to do, he has flown in the face of. And even the things that he said he would do that he did do, like slashing the federal government and going in there and gutting a bunch of stuff, that immediately has led to the deaths of his party's own constituents in Texas, where this flooding has killed like over 100 people in a completely preventable way. We could have prevented those deaths if it wasn't for the slashing that the Trump administration did. That's just very straightforward. So I think it's a good thing that it is being revealed as quickly as possible how terrible Trump is at governing in every aspect. Even in Trump's own personal branded style of governing, he's terrible at it. Are these people ever going to realize that? No, but the stronger the evidence stacks up against them, the more we're going to start being able to successfully push back in some of these arguments instead of it feeling like MAGA is controlling the conversation. They're losing control of the conversation right now because everything that they claimed that Trump was here to make a change about, he has either made worse or he has done exactly what every other status quo elite has ever done. So maybe there will be a few of them that realize that, but ultimately I think what it represents is an opportunity for us to change the brand of Donald Trump. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and if you really want to support, consider becoming a member. That's the best way to support this channel. I'm posting different kinds of stuff there, like podcasts that don't make it to the main channel, book reviews, movie reviews. I'm reading Catcher in the Rye right now. I'm probably going to review that on there. Also posting music early. I've got a couple EPs out that were available first for members only. Right now, there's a couple tracks on there. There's a freestyle by me and my buddies Wrecked and Psych. So if you want access to all that, different podcasts and other stuff, become a member. And if there's other kinds of content that you'd like to see for members only stuff, then let me know and we'll work some things out.